we're going to work on staff pose today. So staff pose looks like this. Straight legs, straight back. Now this might not look like a lot, but for many people this is actually quite challenging. Most people look something like this when they get into this position. They're unable to hold legs straight or back straight. So we're going to kind of touch upon all those areas to bring this pose about. So let's start with some basic hip stretches and hamstring stretches. Tight hips and tight hamstrings make it really difficult to get into this position. And then of course we're going to work on the spine a little bit, making it a little looser, as well as strengthening some of the muscles that go alongside the back. So we're going to just start, like I said, with basic hip stretches. A lot of these we've already done in some of the previous hip opener series. So feel free to check in with them to just kind of warm up the area a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to bring the right leg in and the left leg in front and just gently stretch forward over the legs. And also keep in mind that we don't hold for very long. Okay, so once you learn the sequence, you want to hold these stretches for at least a minute or so in order to really properly warm up the hips. Okay, so we have the right leg in, the left leg in front. They're nice and wide. And let's go ahead and gently reach the body forward. Keep your back as straight as possible. Keep breathing. And then slowly come back in. Okay, we're going to twist to the right. Just warming up the spine a little bit. And then let's twist to the left. So the spine needs to be flexible enough as well. If the spine is rigid, it's going to be really difficult to put all the arches in the spine when you're sitting up straight. And center. Now let's go ahead and take the front leg, bring it straight out in front of you, and fold over the legs. So we're going to stretch out the hamstrings. Once again, tight hamstrings is going to make it very, very hard to get into the staff pose. And as always, make sure that when you do hamstring stretches, you lead with the chest and you do not round the lower back. We don't want to round through the lower back too much. So lead with the chest and think of pulling your sitting bones back away from the heel. And then slowly come back up. Okay, let's switch the legs. Now you're going to have your left foot in, right foot in front. Stretch out the hips again, gently walk the hands forward. So we're just doing just a few basic hip openers, but remember to go back, look at some of the previous sequences, and really loosen up the hips. Very, very important if you want to be able to do that pose. Keep stretching. And then slowly come back in. Let's do the spine twist again. So we're going to twist to the opposite side first. Now when you're doing the twist, let's go ahead and also lift the chest and feel the stretch like more in your middle to upper back as well as the front, the rib cage. And then over to the other side. Twist from the rib cage only. Try not to twist from the hips or from the lower back, just from the rib cage. And then lift the chest. And come back to center. Let's bring the bottoms of the feet together. Hold on to the ankles and then gently push down on the knees. And reach the chest forward and up. And gently press down on the knees. Make sure you don't feel anything in the knees. If you do, move the feet further away or just skip it altogether. Keep the chest out. Keep pressing down. And keep reaching. And come back in. And I think we skipped one stretch, so let's go ahead and do the hamstring stretch. Take your right leg forward and stretch forward over the leg. So warm up the hamstrings. And again, we don't hold for very long, so you may want to kind of pause and do the stretches for a little bit longer. And come back in. Let's do both legs forward now. Keep your spine nice and straight, or as straight as you can, and then go ahead and gently fold over the legs. And remember to lead with the chest and the ribs. Try not to round from the spine only. Sit nice and tall. Stretch forward. And keep breathing. Good. Let's open the legs out to the side. And then again, stretch forward over the legs. Lead with the chest. Feel this in the inner thigh and the hips. Walk the hands over to the right side. And walk the hands over to the left. and come back to center. Okay, so let's stretch out the hip flexors a little bit. We'll do pigeon, which we've also already done. So if you want a little more information on that, just look back to one of the previous series. So we're going to go ahead and take the one like that, bend the front leg, and just focus on the hip flexor of the straight leg that's behind you. Sit nice and tall. This will also stretch the hip of the front leg. And just reach back a little more. And to get a deeper stretch here, and only if you're warmed up, please be careful because we're not exactly warmed up. You go ahead and you can bend the back leg and just give a little pull here. And this will really move the stretch into the hip flexor. And release. And let's switch to the other leg. So you'll feel it here, as well as the hip flexor and thigh area of the back leg. Sit nice and tall and keep breathing. And then you can bend the back leg and give it a little pull. And release. Okay. So we loosen up the hips. We loosen up the hamstrings a little bit. Again, take your time, do it a few rounds, do it for a few minutes. And let's go ahead and begin to work our way towards the staff pose. So I'm just going to go ahead and face the other way so you can kind of see. So we're going to keep the legs slightly bent. So you have like a diamond here. And you can go ahead and hold on to the shins and use your arms to help lift you. So you're actually going to use the arms to pull the chest forward and up, and you should feel the muscles along the back being nice and active. So you use the arms, lift the chest, and just push that chest forward, look up, and pull the abdominals in. Now try not to tense up in the shoulders, right? Just work the middle back muscles, sit tall, and then release and do a little stretch here. Fold over the legs. Good, and then come back up. Now let's go ahead and let the feet slide forward a little bit more. So they're still not quite straight yet. You can hold on to the shins again. Lift the chest again. And release. Again, stretch forward over the legs. And come back up. And let's hold the legs here for now. We'll do just a little bit of strengthening work alongside the spine. So we go ahead and bring the arms out to the side. And keeping your back as straight as possible, lift the arms up and bring the arms down. So we inhale the arms up and we exhale the arms down. Now when you lift the arms up, try not to move the head, try not to hike up the shoulders, and try not to round the spine. So you want to keep shoulders down and don't move the head, right? So keep the head exactly where it is. And just feel the work all across the shoulder blades, not in the neck and not in the lower back. Now, if you find yourself sinking, you can do this sitting down on a block or maybe even sitting on a chair just to focus on the back work. And let's go ahead and release. Good. Now, if you need to place your hands here, you go on ahead with the hands behind you and straighten the legs. Now, this may start out being somewhere around here, and this is okay if this is where you need to be, but just press forward with the arms. So again, we need the hamstrings to be loose enough, and try not to tense the hip flexors. So learning how to let go of the hip flexors can be very challenging. It's often a lot harder to learn how to not work muscles than it is how to get them to activate. So you can keep the hands back here and use the arms to push you forward and up as much as you can. So once again, you want to bring your attention to the hip flexors and try to let them go. Try not to tense. And then you can stay here for as long as you can. And then if you're ready, you just go on ahead and bring the palms right next to the hips and sit nice and tall. So when you're doing this stretch, this pose, you should be feeling a lot of work alongside the back. Your hamstrings need to be loose enough. Your hip flexors need to be relaxed and loose enough, the hips, the front of the hip. And the abdominals are working to hold your back straight. So for more challenge, we'll lift the arms up, inhale, try not to bend anything, and hold. Keep breathing. And then go ahead and release. Okay, so that's called staff pose. And it doesn't look like much, but for many people that's actually quite challenging. And it basically works the entire body. It requires a nice balance between strength and flexibility, especially of the deeper, smaller muscles. So take your time, work on the hips, work on the hamstrings, strengthen the core and the back. And it shouldn't take too long to be able to get into that position. Let's take a nice deep breath in. Exhale, release.